Good evening and welcome to the board meeting for Benicia Unified School District. It's October 1st, 2020. In compliance with Executive Order N29-20 and N3520 issued by Governor Newsom on March 12th and 21st respectively, this meeting will be live streamed and recorded via the BUSD YouTube channel linked here. There was an opportunity for you to post comments on the Google link that was posted for our meeting, but hopefully you are doing that now. At this point, I'd like to announce that there were no decisions or actions taken during our closed session, so we could now move into our open session of our meeting. With that said, I'd like to ask everybody to please stand and join me in the pledge. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and please be seated. Okay, I'd like to start with calling for a motion to approve the agenda as written, please. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Mr. Maselli, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Zeta, thank you. Okay, do we have any highlights, Dr. Young?
Yes, we do. We have some very special friends with us this evening. Very important.
Did you take the vote?
People in our system. And before we go back to that, Georgina, just let's have Dr. Beatson. We'll introduce everybody and introduce the highlight for this evening. But welcome to our friends, and she'll introduce everyone. Dr. Beatson.
Sure, excellent.
I'm super. Beatson, can I interrupt you for just 1 second? I'm sorry. Can I get a vote on the agenda, please? All those in favor say aye.
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 Good.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the agenda passes. We were so excited to get to the library, I was skipping the vote.
Good call, Ms. Martinez. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Madam President, we are super excited, and I think you're going to love this presentation by our district librarians. They have all joined us on the Zoom this evening, and I believe that Miss Taylor from Joe Henderson is actually going to lead the presentation. And I think part of her introduction is to introduce all the rest of the librarians, so I will leave that up to her. But we are so blessed in our district to have such a great team of staff there to support our students. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Miss Christy Taylor.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting us. We were really pleased that you wanted to highlight what we've been doing. So we have a little short slide presentation, so I'm going to pop into sharing my screen and go right to the slide presentation. So let's see. So hope all of you can see the presentation.
No.
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay, let's try it again here. This was my greatest fear.
Uh-oh. Well, Christy, I have it. So if you need me to,
let's see here. Hold on. Here we go.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Now let's find it.
You have fun with that, Christy.
Yes. Thank you. Here it is. All right. Here we go. Ta-da! Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to start out by introducing everyone. This is Lisa Sari from Matthew Turner, and we have Che Soto Vigil from Mary Farmer, Amber Kelly, of course, from Benicia Middle School, and we also have Megan Siegel from Benicia High School, and our newest library media technician is Lindsay Junk, and we're so excited to have Lindsay as a part of our team. So as we were thinking about distance learning, we met several times prior to the shutdown. We met in the park, distanced, and wanted to figure out what could we do that could keep our program going in the midst of this distance learning environment. So we came up with these 3 goals: getting books in the hands of kids, supporting teachers and students, and also providing new and relevant titles. So the way we are doing that is we started with our weekly curbside pickup program that all schools, we're having it at all schools. Safety guidelines, of course, were provided by the CDC, so we are following those. Each school has a designated day when they come to pick up the books, and that they have reserved online. So we've tried to help families out by scheduling these pickups at convenient times after school hours, and also during teacher supply days. So when teachers are providing supplies for their students, so often we get teachers out there with us as well. So that's been fun for the students and for us too. So just in the short few weeks that we've been doing this, we've already checked out close to 1,400 books. So that we have, it's been a success for sure. Another way that we are supporting our students, we've created an online presence with our new BUSD library website, and all of our schools are featured on this website. So that's very, very cool. That's first time. Cool. So it's a one-stop shop. We've made Google Classrooms instructional videos on how to access our card catalog online. We've provided lessons on digital citizenship and information literacy, showing students how to use online research tools. And at the middle school, we have overseeing homework clubs and other events. So that's another way that we're continuing our presence. Also, I love this. This is kind of my favorite thing, read-alouds, of course. We are providing instructional videos, read-alouds, in-person Zooms and class visits, book talks, Bitmoji classrooms, and more. And all our videos are on the BUSD site, which every student has access to through the Clever app. And so as you can see, one of our slide on one of we've all posted our banned books, which is something that we would normally do. This is Banned Books Week, and we would normally be doing that in the library. So we've created this online presence. And when you click on the different things on our slides, they actually come alive, and so they'll take you to a site. So it was fun for us to do, and again, providing something that we would ordinarily provide in the classroom. And last of all, we just really want to thank our PTAs and our PTGs, because they've continued to support us as best they can during the shutdown. And our LCAP money that we received last year was a tremendous help. It allowed us to add so many current and timely diverse titles to our collections. And that, of course, represents our student population and our community at large. So that's been great. So, and those books, of course, having a diverse collection is really what supports our lifelong readers and learners. So that, of course, is part of what we believe in as our district goals at BUSD. So with this, that's pretty much it. This is our snapshot. We just want to show that BUSD our libraries are important, and they truly are the heart of each school. We provide a service and a relationship with students that it's unique. It's really unique. So that's our presentation. If you have any questions.
I just want to say welcome, Lindsay, wherever you are. I can only see certain people on my
I'm going to stop my share here.
And also, thank you to all of you, because I used to sit in your shoes at a different district, so I know the hard work that goes into being a librarian, and you do touch every single child in the district. So I applaud you, and thank you for going out of your way to make it work during these trying times. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I had a quick comment. I just wanted to point out the fact that I asked Miss Kelly, our middle school librarian last year, and I think I asked Megan as well. So what's the most popular book that the kids read at the middle? I think I just asked at the middle school. And I love doing that. And then Ms. Kelly said, it's the hate you give, that they're just reading it like crazy. So then I got it and I read it and I thought, wow, what a powerful book. So
I read it also. He gave me his
right.
copy when he was done.
Well, I think the board
Right.
read it and the management team, we all read it. And then we use it as a discussion around, the equity issues and the work that we're doing around that. So we benefit with all the work that you do as well. So I'll ask you guys that again, like what's the book that you have to tell us now, but I always love to know that. So thanks for your great work. We really highly value all of you.
Thank you very much.
Sherry said everything really well. The only thing I'd add is that your use of technology and really bringing all the different aspects of technology is so impressive.
Yeah.
It's been a learning curve for many of us. It truly has.
Well, I think you've done a great job. I mean, we've actually even had fun. All of us have been sharing your Facebook's blogs, posts online too, because even those are fun to read and look and go, oh, we got to pass that one on. It's great. So, and I do have a couple of little kiddos in my learning group that are enjoying the books that you're sharing. So I know they're touching lots of children, and that's absolutely an awesome gift for them. So thank you.
Well, and one more quick thing. When we are using that green screen, there are a couple of videos where it looks like we're together. We had to really work hard to figure out, okay, how can we look like we're interacting, but we're not on the screen at the same time? So we would film a little bit, then we'd cut, splice, and put it together. And that was something new that we had to learn too. So
the next thing you're going to do is go into movie making.
Well, we are doing that a little bit with our read alouds using iMovie.
And
you can see that any of our read alouds, you can see that on the BUSD, the full BUSD website that we have, that all of us are on.
Well done.
Just as an idea, I mean, I used to love to go to the classrooms to read. And so if you want to volunteer for read aloud, I'd love to. And I have some books I ordered for the elementary schools that I'll be sending to the elementary librarians.
Fantastic.
And Sherry's waving her hand. She's like, yes, me too, me too. I think you've got a lot of people that would be willing to be readers for you if you guys.
We love that.
That would be great.
We love guest readers for sure. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thanks,
for
everyone.
inviting us.
All right. Well, thank you. Great job, ladies. Thank you, and gentlemen. Okay. That's a kind of a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave that one up to the superintendent to follow.
Very good. Being that it is a hard act to follow, I'll be brief. I just want to welcome everybody, and everybody has an opportunity to tune in and watch us this evening. And then a special shout out to our students. I don't know if any of you take an opportunity to watch this, but just want to say hello to all of you. I'm thinking, as your superintendent, thinking about all of you a lot, and to let you know how much we deeply care for all of you, all the kids in our system. And, as the adults that are doing our best to take care of the whole system, and you're always at the center of the decisions that we make. So from the board trustees and your superintendent and the whole team, students, we're all thinking about you. Also, I just want to thank the staff and everybody doing a great job keeping our virtual system going along. The October 15th board meeting, the staff and I are working very diligently to put together some recommendations and our best thinking for some potential steps moving forward with our learning model. And we'll be presenting on those on October 15th board meeting and having a good and robust conversation then. So for the public who's tuning in tonight, that'd be a nice board meeting for you to, if you had time to tune in and watch and see what our thoughts are and how we believe we would like to move forward based on where we are with the data and all the work that we're doing. So there's that, and we're working hard on all that stuff. And just another thought about folks on another note that are dealing with the fires, anybody in our district, very mindful of that. It's been very challenging. It's very devastating. And the air, I think we've all been dealing with yet another thing to deal with. Unfortunately, the air has been really bad the last couple of days. So just our thoughts and prayers go out to those folks as well. And that's it. So looking forward to the board meeting tonight. It's not too long. We've got a couple interesting, they're always interesting, right? So a couple of interesting agenda items that I'm looking forward to hearing about as well. So thank you.
Just a little tidbit for everybody. We started our meeting with 22 viewers, and normally as the meeting progresses, the numbers go up. So I think that's a great start for this evening. So does anybody else have something they'd like to share tonight? Sherry?
Okay. As we get different things either in our emails or online sources that show up, I came across this article about a Benicia High School student named Krishna Mandal. I don't know if I'm spelling it or saying it right, but I just want to give him kudos. He got an honorable mention in the 2020 National Association for Music Education for Student Composers Competition. If you haven't heard it, you need to find it and listen to this because it was fantastic. I was like, we have a great music program, and he is very gifted. I can tell you that. So I just wanted to shout out to our music program and all the kids that play music and the parents that support them. So thanks. Great job.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Kaiser. I don't know if everybody noticed your email. Mr. Kaiser sent us his copies, his first 3 newsletters from his class and his program. He is one of our CTE track and very gifted teachers. And I was so glad he did that, because normally we would be making class visits and getting in to see the kids, be able to participate in activities or projects that they have going on. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about the distance learning is I personally feel very separated from what's happening in all of our classrooms in our district because we can't be there. So for him to send that newsletter out, I wanted to just take a shout out and say thank you so much. There's amazing things going on in there. I love that he shared little summaries of each of the projects going on. Great opportunities for parents to connect with them. He gave them multiple pathways to connect. And then he also announced that several of his students were not only taking our BHS classes, but were also enrolling in the colleges to kind of do a dual enrollment. So I thought that was also an amazing opportunity for our kids. So I just want to thank him for doing that. And, please send them out to us by email if you have them out there, because we are really... I think we're experiencing a disconnect or a distance that we haven't experienced before, and we would love to know what's going on. So if you have newsletters, shoot them our way. We really do read them. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. And does anybody else have any other comments? Okay, so then I am going to move on, and our next one is actually our comments from the members of the public.
There are no comments.
There are no comments this evening. So I'm going to move on to number 11, which is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be approved by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be pulled and discussed. Are there any comments? Okay, then do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
I move that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Maselli. Do I have a second?
A second.
Dr. Moss is giving me a second. And this time, do I have all those in favor? Please say aye or raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Seeing none, the consent calendar is passed, is approved. Okay, discussion items number 12. Student engagement and process, and that is Director Rice.
All right. Let me share real quick.
Ms. Rice, as you're finding your position there, I just wanted to take a moment to congratulate you for your new title and your role. From coordinator to curriculum and instruction to director. So congratulations. I know we approved that at the last board meeting, and I'm not sure if we congratulated you when you were there. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Good evening. I am here to present on student engagement, and I'm going to share our current academic progress, our systems for monitoring student progress, as well as supports for students who are struggling.
Miss Rice, can I
Yes.
just a quick interjection? And the only reason I'm doing this because we all have
Absolutely.
a familiarity with all of this stuff because we're
Mhm.
staring at it all the time. Another little context piece to this presentation is this is a requirement from a legislative document that school districts are all required to work from called SB 98. And there's two sections, multiple sections of that. One of them is this attendance piece. Then there's a piece around progress monitoring. So there's a whole method to doing that. And so just a context on that it comes from that legislation to make sure that we're keeping track of our kids. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Dr. Young. And it also comes from a place of us monitoring and wanting to see what we're going to do for kids. So this first slide represents elementary. Now, just to remind you, elementary are on the trimester system. So they have not hit their official progress report mark, although teachers have communicated, with families. So, and the other note to know for elementary is they're on a standard-based grading scale. So we are moving to Power School, just like secondary for grades. And we're working on that this year. But with that, it's not a flip of a switch. So Robert Wall is working with Lisa Golson, and he's actually writing code right now, possibly right now, but currently, so that we can have our elementary teachers using that grading system as well. And the benefit will be a one-stop shop with that and report cards, but also an ease for us to be able to pull data as a district. So since they're not at that cut point yet, what I pulled for you here is the number of students that we're looking at with our intervention teachers to serve. So what you see here is our 2020 numbers compared to our 2019 numbers. And what I wanted to look at here and take note is if you look diagonally on the chart, so for example, we were serving 16 first graders in 2019. This year we're looking at serving 14 second graders. So our numbers are not significantly different from last year. It's not a huge increase. But one thing to note, though, is typically on a given year, we do serve a lot less in that next grade up. So usually we're having some students come out a lot more significant than what we're seeing here. In the middle school, what you see here on the first chart is how many students are receiving those letter grades. This was pulled on September 24th, so we're not yet at quarter one or halfway through the semester for the courses that they're taking a half of a year. But what was important that we were looking at is where we are now compared to where we were last year, close to this time, and that would have been quarter one. And as you can see here, with the percents, it's not a significant statistic difference, except for science. So this is something that we're going to want to dig deeper into to see what's going on. But as you look at each different course, it's very similar to where we were at this time last year. And then I also attached our 6th through 8th grade breakdown if you want to dig deeper into the data. And then we have our high schools. And again, the first chart is the overall breakdown of grades. This chart here shows both BHS and LHS. And again, for BHS, it's not a statistically significant difference. It's less than 5%, except again for social studies we've identified. So that's again another area that we're going to want to dig into and get some more information on. Now, when we look at LHS, there is a definite statistical significant difference. And when we're analyzing this, we're looking at our virtual program, where it's working, what students it's working for. And this is definitely a concern, and I'll share some information that I got from Miss Lewis in a future slide. I also have here a breakdown of 9th through 12th grade if you want to dig deeper there too as well. So before I go into what they're doing at each site, I shared with you last year about our NWEA MAP assessment. So that was the assessment piece that we were looking forward to using this year. We started piloting before we went out with COVID. And then COVID hit, and we worked with the company, and they were assuring us that it would be successful in this virtual state. But we've definitely hit some barriers. So I'm going to share those with you. So our initial plan was to use that K-12 MAP growth assessment. And what that is it's an assessment that measures how students are doing on the standards. It's norm referenced, as well as they would take it 3 times a year. So it would measure how they're doing according to their grade level standards and how much growth they've made at that time. So you would get both sets of data. And our original plan was to test all of K-12, and then we were going to delve deeper into our struggling students, where we would give this fluency assessment where it'd really pinpoint some areas that we can then support our students with. And as we were working with our teachers and reflecting, we talked with our K-1 teachers, and they just didn't feel like it was appropriate to give to the students in the circumstance we were in. So we chose to pause on it for K-1, and they agreed to use their data system, ESGI, to give some common assessments. So then we moved to Plan B, and Plan B was that we would still give this MAP assessment to 2nd through 12th grade. And after hearing some more feedback from teachers, we set up some supports by providing proctors for our 2nd grade, and then also providing some live trainings. And we were working really diligently with our intervention teachers, Lisa Golson in Ed Services, to do this. And we ran up against a lot of barriers, such as internet connectivity. That was huge. And also they had to do something called device preparedness. And they had to set their device to a certain system. And that was a struggle for students who didn't have the parent support. I think also the fires also impacted our internet connectivity, and that was a huge struggle. So now we're on to Plan C. So now we have put a pause on the NWEA MAP growth assessment. We wanted to not continue to cause any frustration with our students and with our teachers. So until we can work on some of the connectivity issues, get all of our students on our devices, as well as make sure that this testing platform can handle the impact of so many people on. And that's where it really came down to, is I think a lot of these companies are online and virtual, but they weren't ready for the big impact that has hit them. So we are currently now using a small component, that fluency piece, that we're still using it for our really struggling students, so we can really pinpoint and isolate what we need to work on and support, which is really essential now. Other grades, it's optional for them to continue their assessment if they were having success with it, and we're collecting feedback along the way. And then as far as the district office support, what we're working on in Ed Services is meeting with grade levels. We're going to work with departments on creating common assessments. And with that, we're going to use our platform known as Performance Matters. And we've had several high school teachers already training on this with our department, and they have been creating assessments. We're beginning to work with middle school, and next week we will be working with elementary on doing this. And then we're not taking NWEA map off the table, but we're definitely pausing, and we'll come back to that later. So with that, we are working on ways to capture data. We're getting feedback from principals and teachers themselves to support our students. And then each site has a support system in place to support the kids. So just to give you a little bit of insight on what our elementaries are doing, is the elementary teachers are offering teacher support time during their asynchronous time in the afternoons. They also are doing small group instruction for students that need that. We are beginning our next tier of support with our intervention teachers, and we will then be hopefully bringing on some reading tutors in the next couple weeks to also meet more student needs with that really targeted, intentional guided reading. And then we also really look for curriculum that supported universal design for learning. For example, our mathematics program support this year is called ZERN. And with that program, students are working on their grade level standards, but it also provides them opportunities to practice their fluency in different areas of mathematics exactly where they are. So it's at their level, and it's a digital platform for that. And then for our middle school, they are monitoring their students and providing support. Their counselors are pulling weekly reports, and they are really honing in on those students that are really struggling or failing the courses. And the counselors are connecting with the teachers. They are reaching out to both the parent and the student, and they're working on finding out what barriers are keeping them from being successful, as well as offering suggestions for support. One of the things they have for support, we heard from our librarian team, is that they're offering a homework club, and that's Monday through Thursday, 2:10 to 3:10. And the librarian is a part of that, as well as students that are in the National Junior Honor Society are providing some peer tutoring. And then counselors are also offering weekly check-ins that students can sign up for and get support, as well as social emotional learning support. And then also at middle school, they have weekly access. So students have another teacher that they're assigned to. They check in, they go over the community events at the school, some social emotional learning strategies, and just have another area just to have a homeroom type of support. And we are exploring the option of possibly offering a math lab or an English language arts after school lab. So that's a possibility in our future. And then we have at our high school, BHS also does weekly reports, also overseen by the counselors. They are really targeting in on the students with F grades, and they're following up again with students and parents. Students that have multiple F grades, they have what's called a care team. They pull in like a student study team meetings to look at how they're doing across the board, to get information there, and to look at how to provide support. Benicia High School also has a period, which they call access, that they're checking in with another teacher as like a homeroom time, as well as the teachers are offering additional supports on Fridays for students that need additional help besides the time that they're offering during the week. And then we have LHS, and LHS also has that time that students are checking in with a teacher, but it's daily, and it's known as an advisory. And every day in advisory, they check in, and the advisor reviews their individual learning plan. So each student at Liberty High creates an individual learning plan, and their advisor reviews that with them and monitors their grades. With that, they're also working with the subject matter teacher to see how they can support that student with reinforcements, phone calls home, etc. And then the teachers are also offering additional small group or one-on-one support in the afternoon for students that need additional help. When talking with Miss Lewis, we were looking at the data, and I know, we were presenting attendance at the beginning of year, and Miss Lewis, principal of Liberty High, was talking about attendance being better than it ever has. And now the grades coming in are not reflective of the student progress. And as I was talking with her, she said, we had some supports in place. They had their advisory set up. They had their check-in with teachers. But she's added some other layers that she's starting to do to try to make connections. And one of those things is connection to the principal. So she said what she's doing is asking for the teachers to tap her into some of the assignments. For example, in one course, they were goal setting, short and long-term goals. And they were to write to Miss Lewis with their short and long-term goal. And the principal then replied back and CC'd the teacher. So they had this triad of support. And with that, she continually is starting to monitor and check in with them to provide support as well. So I know they're working really hard over there at Liberty. Looking at the numbers, they're struggling with this virtual learning right now, but they're definitely rallying around their students to see what they can do to provide that support and support them. So that is where we are with engagement-wise, just kind of at a glance. Let me stop sharing. Are there any questions or other things you might want to know?
Ms. Rice, I am really concerned about those D and F grades across the board, because even if the percentages have not changed much from last year, that's still a pretty large percentage. And it's not just Liberty, it's some of the other schools. So it's kind of a two-part question. Have we gotten all the computers that we have ordered, and does every student have their computers?
We have not yet received all the computers that we've ordered. That isn't on our end, and it is very disappointing. I know I believe and maybe Leslie, you can jump on this, but I don't know if it was this week or next week that we're receiving only the first batch, which I believe is like 400 computers that we were going to work on getting out to students. And yeah, we don't have all the computers yet.
I do know, I can add that Mr. Padawan, our director of IT, anyone that had requested a computer, I believe they did follow up with them, and many of them had access, and it wasn't necessarily on a device, but they figured it out, and many of them, he said, have ended up going out to purchase their own as well. So at the very beginning of the year, we did a lot of access checks, and so we felt really confident that while it wasn't everybody getting a BUSD device, people did have access, and so it wasn't necessarily an access point. Now, one of the other problems is connectivity. Right. And again, and I think we might have talked about this last time, families have internet, but the internet gets spotty and it doesn't hold the connection that well. Again, probably because so many people in town are trying to get on. There isn't really a whole lot we can do about that piece. That is beyond our control. We've offered to families that have qualified or needed it to sponsor them for internet service if they didn't have internet. I know hotspots were another option, but Mr. Padawan says that they're not necessarily as robust as a true internet connection into your house, which we could do. But it became more about how many people are trying to get on and how much, I just think of it as the pipe, and I can't remember what it's called. It's like that traffic jam in there, and that's beyond what we can do at this point.
Beyond the school district's ability, but it's such a sad thing that we're having to deal with. And did each of those schools reach out to every D and F student? Has everybody been connected with a person by phone, so that there is that we're not missing anybody? Because it seems to me, not just Liberty, because Liberty's, those numbers are not great, but have we connected by phone to each of these people?
As far as my understanding is, yes, when I was talking with Ms. Dalsky, Ms. Kleinschmidt, and Ms. Lewis, that they have kind of a tiered system set up where, you know, they're running the reports weekly, and then the counselors are taking the lead on kind of breaking it out on who's making the call, whether it's them, teachers are following up, but it's calls and emails. And as far as I know, both the middle school and the high school are trying to connect with both the student and the parent to talk about, one, what are the barriers? What are the barriers to success on one hand? And then two, you know, these are the opportunities we have for support. Can you participate in those? So that's kind of like the first.
Okay. It's just concerning. It's just, I see the numbers and it's worrisome.
No, I agree with you, Sherry. I think you're right. Do we have an idea what the number of kids are that do not have computers yet? And then just to get back as a follow-up to Sherry's comment, what are the common barriers that we're coming up with when the administration is reaching out to all these kids? Because it is an alarming number. Good year, bad year, D's and F's, those numbers are very alarming, especially at this point in the school year. So that I'm finding that to be a concern.
So I don't have the number yet of students still waiting for devices for a BUSD device, but I can get that information for you. The other thing, and we'll have to look again at the end of the quarter. This was about 4 weeks in, or 5 weeks into the semester. And one of the things that I do believe Ms. Kleinschmidt said is that oftentimes things will still change before that quarter ends, because kids will start to dig themselves out of this hole. And so I think it would be important for us to look at those. And I know they're doing it all the time, again, in another couple of weeks when the first quarter ends, to see where are we, because we're looking at last year's grades are the end of the first quarter. So they were further along than when we pulled the grades back on the 24th. We will bring that back to you.
Yeah, I would like to hear more of that, because we actually had this discussion at the last trimester, because we were distance learning and we were all concerned about the grades and where they were and the numbers of D's and F's. So it's pretty disheartening to see that many starting the school year again, that we've got so many students that are being unsuccessful. And the other thing I'm just wondering, because I think it's just hitting me, but if we've got the first wave of computers coming in and that's at 400, that I'm assuming that means there's way more coming in than that. And that means we're well over 10 or 15% of our students are not connected yet with a device. And I guess that's a much greater percentage than I was thinking for our students. I didn't expect the numbers to be so high. So yeah, I would like to hear more about that.
Sure. And so we ordered 1,500 devices so that we would be one-to-one. And we did that as soon as we received that funding, and we knew that we were going to be virtual learning. So I think our students have devices, they're just not all school issued devices.
Well, that's okay. I guess the question that I want to know, and I'm thinking that's what Sherry was asking, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I know what I want to know is how many students do not yet have a computer?
have any computer.
Have any. I mean, I'm fine with some parents have purchased their own. I know lots of parents that have done that, and that's great. It's a personal choice they were able to make and successfully do. But I want to know how many kids are still struggling with maybe a phone or not, because that to me is an alarming number.
Okay.
That would be great if we can get that breakdown.
And with the number that Dr. Reeson was just sharing too, it wasn't, we need to get that number, but it wasn't to give it, we're going 1-to-1, but it also was to refresh some of the computers that we have out there. So,
yeah, I just think, Steph, that we need to have that clarified. I think that would really help us, because I think we're all trying to wrap our brains around this. And I think the fact that it wasn't what I was thinking, that there were that many kids, but it's kind of sounding like there's possibly more. And that to me is a concern.
Yeah,
I think I could speak for everybody when I say that was.
Yeah, we're not hearing, I will get you the number, but we're not hearing that people don't have a device. But I will see if we can peel that apart. And part of it is depending on how many people respond to us. But we did those surveys way back when. We got out as many devices as we had. And then as IT followed up with folks that had requested and we were not able to provide one at the time, the responses they were getting, but I just don't have the exact figure, was that they had figured something out in the meantime. It wasn't just a school device, but I will see if we can follow up with those folks again.
Okay, that would be great. Dr. Moss, I'm sorry, Dr. Hogan and Dr. Moss.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to ask. I know that there were some other accommodations that were being made where students were being provided with copies of, materials or whatever if they didn't have the devices, correct?
Right.
Yes. And just to give you a little glimpse, it still doesn't answer who's using a phone, etc. But our online platforms, which is most of our curriculum, say in elementary, is housed in Clever. And so we ran a report to see how many students have accessed that. And all grade levels had 100%, except for kindergarten. We're digging in there. But some of the things we're finding out is they're also doing packets, etc., not having the kids go on that online piece. And then it was like 99%, I think, in fourth grade. And as I was digging into that, they've been working with individual students on things. There was external factors, not that they just don't have the device. So just running that, we just started running that in elementary. They were able to access the curriculum digitally.
Okay. Dr. Hoagland?
I just wanted to follow up because in listening to this discussion, I have a disconnect. I don't have the presentation slides. Diane, would you not mute?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was.
I don't have the presentation slides in front of me, but in my reading of the slides that Director Rice presented, what I saw was that our grades are no worse than they were this time last year, except for in two areas, one area at the lower school and one area at the high school.
Yes, so that's what I was going to loop back at as well. I know we were presenting last year some of this data, and we had concerns with our D's and F data last year as well during in-person time. So when you look at the numbers, it's not statistically significant. Like we don't have a huge gain in Fs at this point. And like Dr. Beatson said, it will be interesting to see when we actually meet the quarter mark, which that's where I pulled the 2019 data from, where we land. But it's not a big difference. So yes, we're concerned, absolutely, always concerned with Fs. But as far as comparing virtual learning now compared to in-person learning last spring,
last fall.
Last fall, it's very similar.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to clarify, because it's not that I'm not concerned that we have some lower grades,
but we are not in any worse situation than we were a year ago when the kids were in class in person.
Correct, except for LHS.
Except
Liberty.
for, yes, you know, some very specific cases.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to get that across because it seemed like there was a little bit of a disconnect there.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I think the follow-up to that statement, though, is like great applause to our teachers for being able to put this all together and keep our students learning. I mean, that's really impressive that they're able to continue to get 100% engagement at their levels and keep the students on task and getting their grades. So thank you very much to our teaching staff and our administrators who are supporting them.
Yes. Thank you for that too. And just one last little note before I'm done on that note. I had some feedback in our district curriculum council from one of our high school teachers, and she was sharing a silver lining in all this too, is she has some students that would not have been sitting in her class for different reasons, possibly due to anxiety and not being able to be in the class to participate, or she had one student that wouldn't have been speaking up, and she said they're just flourishing in this environment. So with that, we have some silver linings for some of our kids being able to learn this way.
Anybody else have any other comments? All right. As always, thank you very much. It's always kind of interesting to see how our data is pulling out and how our students are doing. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're supposed to be looking at. So thank you for your support.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we are going to move on to our next item, which is social emotional learning and update, and that is Ms. Corona, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Let me see if I can share my. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. This update is just going to talk about what Student Services has been doing and district-wide to address self-care, to address students' social emotional well-being, and in addition to that, what levels of support the district is working on putting into place. So over the summer, my team and we have been working diligently in making sure that we have different resources for our students. So this presentation is going to cover most of that information. So we have had a partnership with Solano County Office of Education. When I first came in November, I believe, I attended a meeting, brand new meeting, was not aware, but luckily our mental health coordinator, she had been involved since the beginning, Jessica Garcia, and we received a grant to develop wellness centers at every school site. We were able to bring in those materials and furniture given with that grant that we received. And these wellness centers is mainly to support our students, give them a safe place, not only students, but staff, family, when they're feeling, having those big feelings, when they're needing coping strategies. So that wellness center will serve for that purpose. Unfortunately, right now, our wellness centers are closed. We're in distance learning. So with this grant that we received, we were able to purchase furniture, which everything has been delivered. It's still in boxes at every school site. We were able to purchase materials. Everything was delivered in August. So it's not being used. Everything is still closed. However, Jessica Garcia, our mental health coordinator, has done a phenomenal job in creating this virtual wellness center. So there's a link to the Virtual Wellness Center. And what this Virtual Wellness Center does, she researched different resources on how to provide for our families. Given that we were going through these difficult times, she created a website and developed the Virtual Wellness Center. This is available for staff, for families, for students. It is also part of our Clever, the one app that students use to sign on to different programs. So this was created and it's currently being used. In addition to that grant for the Wellness Center, we are partnering with County Office of Education in getting 2 interns. And this is still a work in progress. The 2 interns, they're free for us. They would be running the wellness centers. We are looking at placement for 2 different school sites. We haven't determined yet which school sites. But they would be running those wellness centers. We are developing a process on how to provide those resources and then what to do when the student needs additional support. Like I said, the virtual office hours have already started. School sites are doing some check-ins with students, and those are going well right now. Now, what types of wellness is in place? This year we were fortunate that we were able to purchase curriculum. We do have the social emotional screeners, which are universal screeners, and then the tiers of support, also self-care for staff. The curriculum that was purchased this year for social emotional, we have Second Step, and many of you have probably have already heard it. We have special friends, they use Second Step, but we did purchase this for elementary and middle school to be implemented. So elementary uses the social emotional learning time every morning. And the middle school, it's an optional class, but it's done during advisory. Some staff members teach this advisory and also counselors. So these programs are being implemented K-8. At the high school level, we are piloting School Connect, which is another social emotional program curriculum. And high school is piloting it at Get Focused, Stay Focused, and LHS is also using it during advisory. So these are new programs that are being implemented this year. And with the hope that we are able to work with our students and address those different levels of support that each student needs. Now, this year was the first year that we did the screeners, the social emotional screeners. These are universal screeners. So basically these screeners, it was done at the high school level. Approximately 1,200 students, 1,300 students took these screeners. And basically the questions that are asked from these screeners, and they're not, students do not put their names on there or anything like that. But some of the questions, there are 25 questions, and usually the student would answer dislike or like, or so the questions that are asked are effective early skills, student learning on self-management, on decision-making, and also the other component to this is very important is now that we have these universal screeners, now we have this, now what is it that we're going to do with the results? So that's an important piece that we're working on, that we are looking at, that tier level of support. An important component is we gathered the results from the high school, from those approximately 13 students that took that. We disseminated that, those results, analyzed those results. Now we have a tier level of intervention team to look at those results and determine what type of levels of support these students need. Different students scored at different levels. Some scored at a red, some green. So we're looking at that component to make sure that we address those levels of support depending on the student. That is something that is could be part of PBIS, but it's the tier intervention system. And it's crucial to have it in order for us to have a good outcome and utilize the results of these screeners. So here's just, you're probably very familiar with this pyramid, and these are the tiers of support. We look at the red, which very few students would fall under that, and then the yellow, some students would fall. But the main component is that we have those universal interventions. We have everyone's conducting and implementing interventions at school-wide to look and implement, evaluate what happens, and then that maybe that small population, that tier team would, like a tier 2 team, would be looking at those results and then disseminating and identifying what type of supports we would be offering. So this is still a work in progress. We're still working on that. One of the goals is to develop a district team leadership to look at those expectations and then determine how these tier groups are going to be analyzing the results for our screeners. Now, the self-care for staff, this was a phenomenal idea that Ms. Jessica Garcia thought about, because everybody, we were all, under stress. We were all thinking, trying to work more than usual to see how we could best accommodate our families and our students. Our priority has always been our families and our students. And she developed this self-care series. And I always think about, she always says this, you have to take care of yourself in order for you to be able to take care of others. So this is something that's being provided for any BUSD employee. And she started doing this September 11th. I think it ends in November. So she has 2 sessions every Friday. And it's meditation, and it's just that self-care to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so we can take care of our students. Okay. And the link is added here if you want to get more information, or if you want to join one of these Fridays. In addition to that, our district behaviorist, Ms. Jen Baker, has also created different levels of support for parents. She did start with parents who had students with autism. That group was a very small group, so she decided to meet individually with the parents to give them specific strategies with their child to support the distance learning. And this behaviorist office hours is parent workshops, and she has those every week. It has been a great success. Sometimes she has had to accommodate because parents can't do it during the day, so she's doing some evening workshops, and it's basically dealing with behavior, the rules of distance learning, and those things. So there is a link here that will take you to that flyer, and that was shared earlier in September with all families. Administrators sent those out. My office sent that out to families as well. And in addition to that, we're also, Ms. Jessica Garcia is also presenting in October at the Community Advisory Committee. And this is for parents to help how to address parent stress. And she's going to be presenting there coming October. The other piece is Site PTG. They're offering parent presentations as well. So she's working hard in making sure that we are providing the resources and the tools for coping strategies and self-care and well-being of students and staff and family. And these are just additional links that are added to our website, the suicide prevention. It's added to our website. We're working on the student services website as well. And then we have sources of strength. This is something that has been ongoing in Benicia Unified School District. And this program in particular works with any social emotional program, but it focuses on the suicide prevention, and also it also impacts other issues such as substance abuse and violence. So, and this is something that we're looking forward to, and it's being implemented, used at the middle school and high school. And I think that concludes my thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, well done.
Dr. Corona, have you and your team seen any particular increases in areas that you're concerned around or trying to address that are different from a regular year?
I think that anxiety, and I shouldn't say anxiety, but something to that effect. I'm not a clinician or anything like that, but parents have mentioned that behaviors have increased tremendously. We have I've been in contact with some parents. Parents have been emailing, and behaviors have been they have increased at home, something that was not happening when school was open. And with some students that have disabilities, yeah, it has been that. Now, we had, like at Liberty High School, we had students that were in independent study because of anxiety or depression, and that worked well. I've heard that this distance learning is working well for some students, but for the majority, they are having, the social emotional, it's like that interaction with peers. That's what's missing.
I also just wanted to add that thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I just wanted to know, what differences our team is supporting. But two things really have struck me about the things that you've been doing this year. One,
Dr. Hogan, you're a little quiet on your volume.
How's this? Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. One I've really appreciated, and I've heard in the community that people really appreciate the focus on supporting parents and caregivers, knowing that those folks are under more stress, having to work with their children at home for school. And so I just wanted to share that with you, that your team is really garnering kudos for that.
Thank you.
It also in the timeliness changes, that accommodating some after hours programming came up as a very positive thing in a discussion I had recently. So I was excited to see you were on this list so that I could share that with you. The other thing I was going to share with you is that I was in contact with a former student who's now in college and in Phoenix at U of A, and I'm sorry, ASU. Shouldn't get those wrong, huh? Yeah. And a situation occurred and he handled it, and I was talking to him about how he handled it, and he said he learned in Sources of Strength what to do. And so that was very heartwarming to know that they carry those skills with them, and that program has really made an impact on people. So thank you again for your team's work this year.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate to have such a great team. Thank you.
Really well done.
Thank you very much. Any other comments before we move on? All right. Again, thank you very much for all your presentations this evening. We're going to move back to Dr. Gill. She is going to share a discussion item regarding first meetings of some
actually
policies coming up.
Actually,
yes?
Miss Frucci, I can tee that one up, and then usually the way we do it, I can do that, and then Dr. Gill can fill in if we have any details on that, if that's okay. So just
absolutely.
Just a reminder, so we have as a process, we have the board policy review committee that meets once a month. 2 trustees serve on it. They meet with myself and my administrative assistant, Ms. Martinez. And then why Dr. Gill is on here, because some of these board policies will hit on one department more than another. So she was quite helpful in all of these, because they fall largely into the world of human resources. So the process is once a month, we continue to get updates on our board policies from legislation. And so they come to us with these edits and these changes. We push them out to all of the related departments. They bring them back to the Board Policy Review Committee. We look at them and then make the changes, make sure that we understand it. Then we push them out to the trustees and have you take a look at them. And then we have the first reading, which is tonight. And then if there's no questions, then we bring them back for approval at the next board meeting. And the items that you see here, and largely all of these board meetings board policies rather, fall into the category of clarification largely around procedures, postings. The ones that you see here on the uniform complaint, sexual harassment, deal with, again, procedures and clarity around terms, some differences in the investigation process. I did not find that there were whole-scale changes in these, but important ones, and some changes in practices around investigations. So just want to put them out there for your reading pleasure, if you will. I'm sure that you poured over them before the board meeting. And do you have any questions for Dr. Gill or myself tonight? Then if you don't, we'll bring them back next on the 15th for an action item. Any questions for us? One of the things, just to let you know, that when we get these board policies, we make sure that Dr. Gill is so skilled at so many things that we make sure that the items that are applicable to throughout the system, and they are, that we train people in it so they know. So it's not just, here they are, thank you for the approval, and then we shelve them. I mean, we make sure that people know what are the important items in this, so we are putting them into practice. Right, Dr. Gill? Right. So there it is. Any questions from the trustees?
No, but I do want to say thank you for that clarification, because that actually was my question. Is there anything we're going to need to make sure that we touch staff and train them on? So I was going to throw it out to the team since I knew everybody had read it. So thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Anybody else have a question for Dr. Young at this point? Okay, then could we call on Dr. Gill to share? Your mic is off. You're on mute, Kush.
Oh, so sorry.
You're
Good evening, President, Madam President, Governing Board, and Superintendent Young. So Dr. Young actually gave a beautiful summary. I will just add that for these specific board policies that will be brought to you, they're all aligned with the new law that came up at the federal government level, Title IX. There have been some changes in it. And so the language in majority of these board policies, I want to say literally all of them, has been impacted in some shape or form because of Title IX. There will be other policies, of course, we will be bringing forward for other reasons, but this set of policies came together because of that reason. So
Dr. Gill?
They're approved once we receive them as a final document from GAMIT. We will actually not only train staff, we will also be sending them to all employees district-wide as well via email, so that they are familiar with them, that these are the new board policies, because some of them we are required to send in via email to employees by law. So we'll be doing that as well.
Great clarity.
Yes. Any other questions?
Thank you, Dr. Gill. Nice clarity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so being this is the first reading, there's no action on our part tonight. They will be coming back again on our next board meeting, I believe, on the 15th. Yep. We'll see those again. So are there any other final comments for the good of the order? Cute, Sherry. Okay, we are at the end of our board meeting. So if there's no other final comments, then again, I'm just going to stay safe and be well, and we'll see you on the 15th. Good night and have a great evening.
Good night. Thank you.